For its video, we're going to be listing the top 5 advanced card magic books. Now, even though this is a top 5 list, it's not to say that, 5 is ranked lower than number 1 or saying that 1's the most difficult out of all these 5. All of these books are great, and I highly encourage all of you guys to check out every book that I mentioned. The good thing is some of these books you may even own. Now, before we get started, I will go on to some honorable mentions, mainly because these books are probably very difficult to find, or I don't exactly own them at the moment, but I have read a lot of these books. And why do I think advanced card magic books are important? Because this is how you adapt your card magic from beginner skills to being good to great and going beyond that and becoming phenomenal. There's a lot of great things you can do with just an ordinary deck of cards, and these books have a lot of those secrets, I guess. Now, some honorable mentions I have is, first and foremost, by Forces Unseen. This is by Ernest Eric, but written by Stephen Minch. This book is really difficult, from what I've heard, but not only difficult in sleight of hand, but it's really difficult to find. That's my own experience. If you have this book, then I'm not sure you can tell me more, but that's, from what I've heard, a very notorious and good book. Vernon's Inner Secrets of Card Magic. Now, I have read a lot of these, and that's a list on its own. This list could probably be filled with all these books, so that's why I'm not exactly including those. Lesson in Card Mastery by Darwin Ortiz. Now, Michael Vincent, yes, Dr. Vincent, that guy basically has a PhD in sleight of hand, I said that this book is difficult. So if he can say that, that must be a very scary book. Another honorable mentions I have are the Card series. Now, the reason why I'm not including exactly is because books 1 and 2 aren't really too difficult. They're great for refining your techniques, and I'm not saying that they're bad at all, but books 3 through 5 basically would be categorized under advanced. But I think card cards, like the Vernon series, would definitely get a list on its own. Another book I like to mention is Marlowe Without Tears by John Rockenbomber. Now, I may have butchered his last name, but oh well. Now, John is actually a direct student of Ed Marlowe. Well, was. Ed Marlowe unfortunately did pass away several years ago. And Marlowe had a reputation for being very impractical, which actually was very not true. If you ever saw Ed Marlowe work, there's some videos online. He is probably one of the smoothest persons to ever use a deck of cards. His technique is very great, and this book was his student John taking his material and adapting it to basically easier handling. Even though this is an easier version of Marlowe, this is very difficult. Now, some of you guys may think it's easy, but I've noticed there's a lot of technique going into this, and I really like this book though, and this is a great way to advance your card magic. So I think that's it for another thing is this is going to also reflect on one of the books in the list. So let's move on to the main list. At number 5, we have probably the most obvious entry is The Expert at the Card Table by S.W. Ernest. Now, for being a very small book, and probably the oldest one on this list, I should mention as well, it is very difficult. I'm so surprised this is always recommended for beginners, because this is actually not a beginner book. This was also one of the first books to actually expose magic and put it in its place. And S.W. Ernest doesn't BS you at all. He tells you straight away a lot of the advanced sleights you're going to do. And the thing about teaching back then was not as easy as it was now. So a lot of the vocabulary here is going to be hard to understand. Obviously, you'll catch on to it as you progress. But this is great, not just for gambling sleights, but as for magic sleights. There's a section on the tricks here. And this is just another great, difficult book. Like I said, I do not recommend this for beginners. However, beginners should get this just so they have something to work their way towards. Going on to number 4, this is actually a tie, because I couldn't decide what book to put here between the two books, and I felt both of them just should be mentioned, and one should not be excluded from the list. We have Card Control by Arthur Buckley and Expert Card Techniques. Now, obviously people can say Expert's better, but I feel that Card Control by Arthur Buckley is a very underrated book and has some of the most hardest sleights in them. Same with Expert. Now, both of these are great for refining and going from beginner to beyond. However, like I said, even though this is called Card Control, it has a lot more than that. It has gambling sleights. It has stage manipulation. It has a lot of very great card tricks. Expert Card Technique is basically the advancement from Royal Road. So if you've done Royal Road and want to learn even more advanced sleights, this is definitely a book to go to immediately after. So both these are really great books, and definitely check them out. At number 3, we have a modern classic, as it's always called, Drawingroom Deceptions by Guy Hollingworth. Now, Guy Hollingworth is a genius, and this book reflects that. This is... don't get me wrong, you definitely learn sleights, but this takes your card tricks into card magic. I said Guy Hollingworth was very innovative for his time, and with just some simple sleights and some revisions to old sleights that were mentioned in the previous books, Guy Hollingworth has made them into insane magic. And the good thing is, a lot of his card handling is just with regular cards, so you don't have to buy any extra things. His Reformation is probably the best Torn and Restore card out there. It's obviously the most difficult. I would say that's one thing for sure. But it definitely looks like pure magic, and the fact that the card's completely restored and their signature, it's one of the best things out there. At number 2, it's kind of a collection of books. It is books on Mem Deck. Here we have Manga by Juan Tamariz. Now, I do have a separate list on books I recommend for learning Mem Deck, and this is probably the quickest way to go from beginner magic to basically being phenomenal with playing cards. Just one Mem Deck can definitely take you that far. Obviously, sleights are very great, and you will still need your sleights when it comes to these. However, Mem Decks are definitely the best way, and probably the rite of initiation into advanced card magic. There's so much out there to do with them. Definitely check out my other list on how to get started. The cool thing is, Expert at the Card Table definitely has some mnemonics that you can use to get started into that. So good thing about this list is some books will benefit others. And this all leads to my number 1 selection. Revolutionary Card Techniques by Ed Marlowe. Yes, maybe not what you guys all expected, but let me tell you, this is a monster of a book. This is definitely the biggest one out of all of them, and there's just so much in here. There's sleights, there's so many tricks, there's so many techniques. Ed Marlowe is a genius, and he is the genius before geniuses. A lot of people credit Vernon for a lot of things, which is very true. However, Ed Marlowe, I feel, was just as influential and important. And this book is a great reflection on Ed Marlowe and all of his contributions to magic. Definitely not all, but some of his best contributions. Maybe it's a little bit of cheating to consider this book, because technically it is a whole bunch of books bound together. Well, I guess pamphlets. However, they are all under the same category, being this book. So, I think that's it for this book. If you definitely want to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description below. I hope you guys like this book, and hopefully you guys pursue these books. If you have some of these books, then definitely comment down below which ones you have and why you like it. Now, if you agree or disagree, that's completely fine. Just comment down below on your thoughts, and I'd love to hear them and get back to you on those. So that's all for this video. I hope you like it, and I'll see you guys next time.